Using what we have learned this far, we can figure out the inverse of g of h and the composition. So let's start with g. If you have g as 1 comma minus 2, the inverse function needs to be the opposite, like the antidote, the one that will turn the minus 2 back into a 1. So the inverse function is going to be minus 2 comma 1. Then we'll have 5 comma 4, meaning that if you take a 5, it'll give you back as an output of 4. Then 7 comma 5. And finally, minus 7 comma 6. So with that in mind, it's fairly simple to find what happens if you take an input of 5, what the output will be. Well, we already have it here. If you take a 5, you'll get back a 4. And to get the inverse function of h right here, we're going to start by writing it as y equals 3x plus 10. You can try to figure out this without doing any calculations. You will expect, if this is adding 10, you will expect the inverse function to subtract 10. And if this one has a multiplication by 3, you can expect a division by 3. So the first step is to ask x and y to switch places. So x and y will switch their positions and everything else will stay the same. And now you will solve for y. So that means that you're going to end up with x minus 10. You're going to subtract 10 both sides. This is equal to 3 over y. And then you're going to divide both sides by 3. You're going to end up with x minus 10 divided by 3. So if you notice, we're subtracting 10 from x and finally dividing by 3, but also in the opposite order. We started by multiplying by 3 and then adding 10. On this case, in this final case, we're subtracting 10 first and then we're dividing by 3. So the order also is going to be the opposite order. So we can write our answer here as x minus 10 divided by 3. And on this final question, we're being asked to do h composed with its inverse function, but evaluated with a 7. We know that the antidote is the inverse function. So if the inverse function takes a 7, it's going to produce an output. You can do the whole process. You can use a 7 on the inverse function. Let's try that. You're going to get a 7, and that's going to be 7 minus 10 divided by 3. So that's going to be 3 over 3 equals 1. So you're going to end up with h of 1 because the entire inverse function with an input of 7 gets you an output of 1. So then if you do h with a 1, meaning the original function, you're going to, that's minus 3 and minus 1. So that means that the input is minus 1. So if you use that minus 1 as an input on the original function, you're going to end up with 3 times minus 1 plus 10. And that will get you a 7. So we went through all that problem in order to figure out that the answer was already there. You're turning the 7 into a minus 1, and then you're asking that minus 1 to go back to its original value. So anytime you get the composition of two actual inverse functions, this right here will be the output at the end of it.